Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. It's time for another therapy session. Of course, everything that's going on right now is on my mind, and I'm just seeing footage that's coming around of what took place while the shooting was taking place, and the footage is very disturbing. Um, you see parents outside dealing with armed security personnel of some official capacity, sheriffs, cops. I didn't. I wasn't clear on who exactly they were. They could have been military personnel. I'm not certain, but they definitely had their rifles in hand, and they were, you know, handling what their, I guess, orders were, which was to stand around and, I guess, hold off the perimeter where the parents were. Of course, keep that perimeter secure so that they didn't have any um, individuals run in there and further, you know, make things, I guess, worse. Um, I was looking at Sean King's footage of that, and he was essentially saying that they were just cowards standing around while kids get shot. I think for me, looking at it, because I've been a security guard and all of that, I guess I look at it and I ask different questions before coming to that particular conclusion. Even though that's what it looks like, I also know there are other things to ask that will give me context to know why they were standing there. Potentially, you know, and I always leave room for a calmer head to listen to new information. That's what I've been trying to allow myself to be, a calmer head that'll listen to new information. But I tell you, even if Sean King didn't paint it in such a way, I still would feel very, very disturbed knowing that we have entities in place that can stand post, people in place that can literally stand post while something like that is taking place on the inside. You could take those same rifles and put an end to whatever's taking place in there. And it's not to say that they didn't have people already in there trying to engage, but according to the reports, this was going on. The horrific was taking place while all of this was going on, which means they weren't effectively engaging him because he was doing his deed. It was reported that they were out there for 40 minutes before engaging. It was one man locked in a elementary school with 2 rifles and nothing but children. What protocol keeps you from entering is the question I have to ask. As someone who's done some form of security for many years, that's the question I must ask. What part of the game is that? I understand how people out in the perimeter making sure that people don't run in. I definitely see the fruit in making sure those parents don't get in there and give him more people to shoot at. Believe me, I understand that aspect. I get that part. There needed to be people out there engaging the perimeter to assure that the perimeter was straight. They don't know if another shooter could be coming. They don't know what else could be going on. So it's a lot of things they need to be aware of, and they need eyes everywhere, including those perimeters. So I'm not saying those guys weren't doing their job or that they shouldn't have been there or that they were wrong. I just need to understand, is the reports true that they were out there for 40 minutes while not engaging this person while he was doing this? And if that's the case, you'll forgive me for allowing my mind to go into some really strange places after hearing him and coming to that conclusion. you will forgive me. Indeed. Because that's exactly where it's going to go. And so I'm not going to jump to those type of conclusions, but I will throw this seed out there. I'll put this seed out there for everybody who follows me. I am concerned, very concerned about what there is to see here. No different than I was concerned about what there was to see in many other situations in the past that have impacted our country in such a profound and hurtful way. There are things to question yet again. And I'm so very hurt that that is the case. When you know for a fact that children were lost, many children were lost. So after that, it just becomes speculation, and then it can become a spiral that I have no basis for. I really don't have any basis for anything else. The speculation is ridiculous after that. But I can't come up with any logical reason for why it would take so long to engage. Nothing. Are you protecting your own safety from this shooter over the children's safety? Is that what we're prioritizing from a protocol standpoint? Because if so, I don't vote for that. I would like us to switch that up as a citizen. I think that, with all due respect to our officers, we need to prioritize our children in that case. In that particular case, we definitely need to prioritize them. My tax dollars are not going toward grown men with armed rifles protecting themselves over children being slaughtered in the classrooms by an 18-year-old. Not many 18-year-olds, just one. Nah, I don't understand that. Now, there's reasons for why you wouldn't go in. I do understand why there could be reasons for that. The first thing that comes to mind, explosives. Checking the perimeter for explosives. Maybe he left something out there, booby traps for you to go in. I get it. I do get these things. Trust me, my whole family's military, fam. I'm not an idiot in that regard. But we're talking about children in an elementary school. An 18-year-old who crashed his car outside about an hour before. He didn't have a plan. That right there told us he didn't have a necessary plan. He might have thought this out as it pertains to wanting to do this, but he hadn't been scoping the place out, putting booby traps and all of that around. If that were the case, he wouldn't have crashed his truck in the corner over there. So if I'm to surmise all of that, mind you, he had just left his grandmother's house, so you know you got a whole crime scene that he had just left. You know what he was on. You know what he was doing. You got 40 people outside with guns. You didn't think to rush the place? I know it's a bunch of traumatized kids, but reality tells us the trauma had already begun, friends. You needed to be in there. We understand that there are circumstances about stray bullets. You don't want to just be going in, firing around. We get that. You can make situations worse, obviously, but I mean, sitting out there for 40 minutes while he does what he does, I don't look at that. I don't see no angle where that makes sense. I don't see where that's the way. I don't even see how it takes that long to secure the situation, if all of those threats could possibly be in place, especially with as many men as you had. So I just understand that this is going to be something that we are probably going to be questioning for a while. Not just as it pertains to who did what, but as it pertains to how this was handled. And my hope is that with this particular incident, we don't allow those questions to go unanswered like maybe some of the other impactful moments that have lingering questions that no one really wants to talk about, because it'll unearth our entire structure if we uncover the wrong answer to one of those questions. People are afraid of the answers to some of those questions, which is why they won't ask them, I think, in this country. But yeah, some of those key moments that we've been alive to see, most of us who are like 30 plus, some of that stuff just doesn't have any answers for, we don't have answers for how some of those things took place or why certain things have been just completely omitted from the history books as it pertains to how they actually played out in some cases. Looking at 9/11 particularly, I just would like to think that this was just a random act, and that those who were in place to respond did everything they could to protect the children. That's what I want to believe. But that is not what I see there in that footage. That's not what this picture is painting us. It's painting us a picture of something entirely different. That is horrifying in and of itself. So that is really all I have to say about that. I know I was going to make this a therapy session, but unlike my last therapy session, I didn't really want to go down the rabbit hole of my conspiracies. For one, they've already been said. If you want to hear them, you can go back to the last one. But this just makes it worse. Seeing what I just saw makes it worse. And granted, I'm not going to lie to you, Sean King's presentation of that information painted a certain picture that I didn't really need him to help me with. And I don't like that. And I'm going to say that in this camera. I don't like that. I appreciate what he's doing in terms of bringing light to certain things. But when you try to further my outrage than what the information necessarily needs to give me, and you don't tell the people other aspects of the circumstance for which will help them understand why their outrage needs to be tempered to whatever degree, because you know what people do with their outrage. Not many people know that perimeter does need to be secured. Not many people know that there's a reason why some soldiers would be out there keeping parents from running in there. That needs to be understood by some of the people who are watching. I happen to understand that. A lot of people don't. And I just think it's very manipulative to help people be more so outraged than they already are. Even if you're presenting us the right information, how you bring it to us will help us understand who you are. And that right there, I know that energy there. That's not great energy. I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna mean that in the spirit of love. That wasn't good energy, Mr. King. But I do appreciate all that he's doing for raising awareness. I think he's necessary, but sometimes in the midst of trying to make ourselves successful, we let the devil in. It stops being about raising awareness about what it is we're trying to do, and it starts being about us and making sure that we are successful in being able to further our voice because we can do the greater good. This is what I was talking about in regards to the politicians. They think the same way. They'll do a lot of evil so that they can find themselves on the top so that they can do the greater good. But on the way up, they realize they turn into something that they never intended to be. Because you're doing all that evil is going to change who you are. So by the time you get up there, you're not going to be the same person. You're not going to have the same goals. Your intention started as if you were trying to do something good and you meant it. But by the time it ended, it was about the numbers. It was about the success. It was about keeping that attention. It was about not failing. It was about not facing the fear of not being the voice or what have you, whatever it is for that particular entity, that person. I think everybody who tries to have a voice needs to find that balance, because that demon within that'll want you to exalt yourself will help you lose sight of what it is you're doing and help ultimately send you in a position to do more damage than good. And your heart will be in the right place the whole time, but the damage will be done just the same. I'm going to do my very best not to allow the desire to be successful to turn me into something I don't recognize. It is possible. I'm not above that or below it. I'm just acknowledging it when I see it in others. We got to be careful who and how we take in the information, especially stuff that hurts our souls. There are people out there who are going to be used or will allow themselves to be used to build something in us that isn't productive. Whether they know it or not, they will be a seed planted that makes us worse, not better. Context and balance will help us get where we need to go. That way we're never too high and never too low. I can look at that situation and say them soldiers should have ran their butts inside. I can also look there and say I know why soldiers need to be outside. That's balance. It keeps me from going crazy. It keeps me from looking at things the wrong way. It keeps me from being in a space where I'm wrong when I say the wrong thing or lash out in these feelings without actually giving context to what it is I may not be aware of. Questions I don't even know I need to ask. I've been wrong so many times and I've learned that lesson. That's why I'm here saying the way that I am, speaking the way that I am at this moment. I would love to say something that could bring everyone who was lost back. I would love to have the ability to raise awareness to the thousands of other incidents that probably took place that same day in underprivileged situations with children that were probably even younger that no one even talks about, and still bring light to this situation at the same time. These things don't have that type of balance. You can't say what you want to say in situations like this because there's no way to do that. There are no words is what I'm expressing. But I think at the end of the day, if we can find a way to get around some of our differences as it pertains to the gun conversation in this country, I don't have an answer for it because there's a lot of different things that I can agree with on both sides. I would have loved to have been a man at the door with a gun when he came in so that I could have stopped him myself with my gun. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that guns are every problem we have, but it's about who gets them, how they're used, and what we're doing when we get them. Are they being destroyed? Are they being circulated back into the world? That's what we need to tackle. A lot of people want to talk about gun laws. A lot of people want to talk about this, that, and the third. But when the guns get back to the government, where do they go? Do they send them to other countries and sell them to other people like they've been doing, they've known to do? And we end up at war with people who are shooting guns at us that we made? Is that what we're doing going forward? Are they destroying these guns? Because that's what needs to happen. You need to destroy these things. You need to melt these things, Terminator 2 style, baby. The ones that are not used in ways that can be productive don't need to be out here like that. And people say, well, there's other ways to kill people. Find them. Let them figure that out. Because I'm telling you, this ain't happening in every country. We got mental illness everywhere. We got sick people everywhere. We got demented, crazy, bloodthirsty monsters who are warped to no end. Extremists who will kill for fun everywhere. But they're not able to do it this way. That's all I'm saying, man. Do you think they want to be able to protect their families? They all want to protect their families. Everybody wants to be able to protect their families. But if the guns get in the wrong hands, you're not protecting nobody. And everybody having a gun ain't gonna stop situations like this, unfortunately. I don't believe. Not that we've tried that. But I just don't think guns in everybody's hands is a solvent for every issue. It's just not. More bullets going in different directions. That's all that is. More strays. Everybody shooting. That doesn't. Nah. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't think that's a solution for that either. We need more accountability for the weapons that exist. And we need to have tally on the weapons that are being created. Whether it's in the dark or in the light, I don't care, bro. We just need to make sure they're not getting in these little crazy kids' hands so that they can shoot up schools. Or whatever else y'all doing outside, I don't have a skin in the game. I'm not trying to tackle those issues. I'm not trying to take money out of people's pockets or tell them what's ethically right. But when it comes to killing kids and them not being safe in schools that are not neglected by funding, because that's key. The reality is there are places that are neglected, and because of that neglect, we do have some of the worst things happening to our children in these areas. We have to do something about that in and of itself. This problem that we're talking about here speaks to places that they do not neglect. It speaks to their inability to protect children. Never mind the fact that they're neglecting some. The ones that they want to protect, they're failing to. And that speaks to everything else that's wrong here. The neglect, yeah, they're going to neglect people. But the ones that they're supposed to be trying to protect, it shows how weak they actually are. They can't even stop a youngster from walking into a school that's fully funded. I don't know, man. Something's off. And then I think about the 40 minutes of them sitting outside waiting. And then I look at those little faces. With respect to the world that I love everybody in, only one of those kids was white, man. The rest of them was brown. Do they get treated the same way if all the little girls and all the little boys were white and only one of them was brown? Is it the same thing? I'm just wondering. Is it the same thing? I hate that I have to ask that, but come on, man. I'm kind of black, so I think I can ask that question. I think I got merit to say, it's been a little different in terms of treatment at times for people. Look like myself. That's the credibility I believe I hold when I ask that question. But would it have been different? Is that why it took so long to get in there? Is that why they were expendable to you? Is that why y'all don't care to just do something about these gun laws? You know, I heard so much and seen so much in regards to people standing up and trying to speak out. I wish I knew who this man was, but he stopped the Republican meeting that they were having in regards to this particular incident. I didn't watch the footage from it. I just saw an excerpt of him interrupting it and what he had to say. And the language that was sent back at him, completely dismissing what it was he was talking about. Now, I get it. Politic games. See, I have a balanced mind. I can understand their point of view. You came here on some low-hanging fruit stuff from their perspective. You know this is going on. You know we're trying to address it, and now you come here putting a shining light on yourself, talking about what it is on this, that you have to say. Everybody's going to be cheering you. It's kind of low-hanging. I get where they're coming from. They were upset with him, but it's the point of how flippant they were. We talking about 19 children and 2 adults. And they gave him cuss words for speaking out. Now, even if I felt he was on some political low-hanging fruit, got me by the tail, it's about the image and the sensitivity level necessary when you have the type of power that these people are wielding. To know that people are hurting. To know that the people who are watching him are not people who are looking to hurt you politically necessarily, but people who are mourning children who've just been slaughtered. That's who's watching him. And you had no care for any of that. You were just looking at what you got going on, which is what we're talking about when we say we want to see action. with politicians who are in this position to do something. That's what Steve Kerr was saying. Do something with what it was that he was referring to. The bill, I'm not familiar, but hey, he is. Listen to him. Do something about what he's referring to is what I can say. Get educated on what he's doing. I need to as well. What he's talking about there. But the point is, if something is going to help us prevent this, it's not the time to be playing political games or being flippant with the other side because they may be able to position themselves in such a way to hurt us, right? With this circumstance. That's not how you show the people that you're not the worst people to run the circumstance. And I just feel like that lack of sensitivity speaks to the entire problem. How these kids found themselves unsafe in the first place is because of these individuals such as these guys in control of the legislation. They don't really understand the room and the temperature in the room. They ain't reading the room. They're focused on themselves. They don't have a heart for anything because they're too busy at war with one another. And we hug to one side or another because it fits what it is that we're feeling. We can be manipulated that way. That's the problem. That's what scares me the most. The guys who want to hurt those guys who are being doggone bad guys when they speak the way they speak to this man, people on his side, I can fathom could be evil enough to want to do something like this so that they can force his hand. We have to be able to fathom such things because we're in a world that is that manipulative and that messed up, man. Not to say that that is exactly what's happening, because of course that's a conspiracy theory, but the point is if we're not willing to look a little deeper sometimes, then we're going to fall ourselves into some of the holes that past generations in this country have fallen into, staying on the surface without looking underneath. Time and time again, history has told us it's not always as it seemed. Time and time again, history has told us that we've been manipulated via media, via art, via whatever it is that's being promoted to us, so that they can do this, that, and the third under the table. We've already seen what's under the table so many times with this country. So could this possibly be something that's nothing? Yeah, sure, it could be a random nothing, but the point is how are they handling it? They're handling it in ways that make you think, dang, did you do it? That's how they're handling it. Dang, did you coerce this entire process so that you can continue your little political games? I mean, you're so insensitive, y'all. These people, the type of people that you just think don't care nothing about no kids. That's what we're all saying to you. I don't know how we got this far into the dumps, allowing people to have this much control over whether or not we can protect our children. We got the president up here saying, when are things going to change? Brother, if you're not going to change them, what are you talking about? Our country is structured in such a way where the president's pleading the same crap out of his mouth that I'm saying out of mine? What do we hire you for if you can't stop these guys from having this war that's keeping our kids unsafe? Like, you can't tell them to have reasonable gun laws? That's not within your power? How are we set up here in America? And something like this could actually be possible. That an 18-year-old could go get 2 AR-15s on his 18th birthday. What? And then to be able to do what he did in all the different details, the grim details of it all, to be able to execute what he did and then be stopped after doing it. Now, mind you, there's so much evidence online. He said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, here's what I got. All of this is online, mind you, leading up to the date it happened. I feel like a broken record. I've already said all this, but like, they catch us on Facebook making jokes, and they can't catch him doing that. It's craziness. It's deliberate, it feels. It doesn't feel like craziness. It feels purposed. thoughtful. It feels purposeful. It feels like an attack. It feels like an attack. And I know it may be irresponsible to say that. That's why I use the word feels like, because this is just me saying how I am receiving the reality. It feels like an attack. And if for some reason, someday in history, it comes back around and they find out that this was in fact an attack, I will be the last person surprised by it. This is a strange world, people playing strange power games. And they've already shown me earlier this year that they don't care nothing about a young child's life when they let their kid fall off of that plane to his death. They already showed me they don't care about kids when they threw them in cages. I already know what they think of brown lives. They've already shown us this many times over. So if I look at this random act and have doubts, the evidence is there. I just want everybody to know that there are Americans alive in 2022 right now, like myself, who don't want to have anything to do with whatever they got going on with this. If it turns out that America did something, I wasn't with it, I wasn't aware of it, and I'm sorry that it happened while I was alive. That's God's honest truth. And I'm sure there are millions of Americans feel the same way I do, because to be honest with you, we really don't know what the hell our government is doing. We really don't know what's going on. We don't. We're caught up in partisan cloak bullcrap. We can't see past the games that they got going on. When real things happen, the first thing we do are partisan. Who can help us on our party? That's what we do. And we're barely waking up out of that. That's the reality of it. So as a timepiece, so you know, we don't. We have no idea. I'm just gonna leave it at that, man. It's all very sad times, but at the same time, a lot is piling up in terms of patterns. Things are happening, and I'll just say, I think more of us are conscious that something is awry in the matrix, quote unquote, than ever before. BDF 44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.